ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our singing star, Miss Kitty Reed.
Hello world, this is Miss Kitty Reed, and Kirsten and I are here to discuss The Longing by Beverly Lewis, the third and final book of the Courtship of Nellie Fisher series. It was published in 2008 by Bethany House. Nellie and Caleb are moving on from their breakup. Nellie is adjusting well, enjoying her New Order beliefs, but Caleb is crushed. Then, Caleb's father is kicked in the head by a mule and is on the brink of death. He survives and is taken home, but he is paralyzed. Caleb is allowed to move back home and end his exile to his grandfather's house to help out with the family farm. Caleb's father does not allow New Order people to donate food to the family or help out around the farm, but Caleb's cousin, Christian, comes by under the radar to help Caleb milk cows. Chris is also the brother of Zach, who was Nellie's deceased sister Susie's boyfriend. Chris also likes to stop by Nellie's bakery shop, finding himself attracted to her. Meanwhile, Rhoda is getting more involved in English life. She stops going to the beachy Amish Mennonite church, and her brother James says she has to leave his house. She moves into a room owned by her boyfriend, Ken. She becomes more and more involved in Ken and planning for her future English life, and she even gets her hair cut short. However, it turns out that Ken is an atheist who does not want to have children. They break up, and Rhoda is stuck living near Ken and getting deeper into debt. Rosanna is pregnant, but as she has never been able to carry a baby to term, doubts that the baby will survive. She and Elias, who is now a preacher in the New Order Church, keep up hope for the baby. They are also going to accept a baby from a woman who claims God has told her that her baby should be dedicated to God. Nellie goes on a date with a New Order Amish boy, but their buggy breaks down and Chris happens upon them. Nellie and Chris go out on a date, and Nellie also starts to feel attracted to Chris. Caleb mulls over theological differences between the New and Old Order, especially when faced with Chris's example. As Caleb's father worsens, he refuses to go to rehab anymore. More shocking is his new belief in the assurance of salvation, especially after talking with Chris's father. He calls Caleb into his room and apologizes for how he treated his son. He gives Caleb the farm and tells him he loves him. He asks for forgiveness, but Caleb does not reply. After urging his son to accept salvation, he dies. At the funeral, both Old Order and New Order ministers preach, and all Amish are invited. Many are moved by Preacher Manny's sermon on Caleb's father coming to accept salvation right before his death. Caleb changes his mind and accepts salvation as well. Rhoda apologizes to her father and moves back home. Nellie goes to meet Chris, who is to take her to a revival where Susie adopted her new faith. Waiting for her instead is Caleb. Nellie and Caleb marry in a double wedding with her sister Nan and her boyfriend. Chris goes to college. Rosanna gives birth to a healthy son and adopts the other woman's daughter, giving her boy and girl twins like the ones taken from her. Rhoda is going to the beachy church and is slowly becoming more conservative. Nellie and Caleb live on his family farm, and Nellie is pregnant. The end. This was a great series. I've always wanted to have Amish fiction where the focus is on Amish doctrine and the different church groups. Just a reminder, not all Amish are the same, and not all Amish are Old Order. I have loved following the people of Honeybrook, Pennsylvania, as they have had to contend with the divisions of the church split. The idea of focusing on a whole community was amazing, but we still did not get a lot about Nellie. Every book in this series has Nellie on the cover, and yet I feel I did not know her. I feel that her and Caleb's romance was shoved to the side much of the time. The series suffered from important things happening offstage and unimportant things getting too much attention. For example, Caleb and Nellie's reunion and marriage is barely described at all. I get that the church split was meant to be explored through Nellie and Caleb's relationship, as it exemplifies the problems of the whole community, but the whole community got most of the attention to the detriment of Nellie and Caleb. Another thing that did not get enough attention was Nellie and Chris. Now, I know this is not what I'm supposed to be thinking, but I think Nellie and Chris should have gotten together at the end, or at the very least explored their relationship. Everything was building toward Nellie and Chris. First, First off, I never felt much toward Caleb, but Chris was great. He and Nellie really had a connection. Also, the series claims to attempt to retrace Susie's final steps, showing how her death and secret life led her family to a new faith. It seems this idea was mostly abandoned, but if you wanted to pick it back up here, Nellie and Chris could have gotten together, and Nellie could have found both the new faith and the new life Susie was going to have had she lived. There was a big to-do building up to Nellie going to the revival where Susie adopted a new faith, but she ended up going with Caleb, and we didn't even get to see her go. Why even bring it up? It is also implied that Nellie has a fear of abandoning Amish traditions because she knows how much it would hurt her parents. We see Susie afraid of hurting her parents by leaving the Amish faith, but willing to do it anyway. We see Rhoda leaving the Amish and hurting her family for selfish reasons. Why don't we see Nellie actually confronting what being with Chris would mean? Why isn't she trying to understand how she can keep her faith but not her traditions if it is for love? And the series is called The Courtship of Nellie Fisher. Wouldn't it have been great if the courtship was really her and Chris? I did not understand the side plot of Rosanna's divinely inspired surrogacy. Why is some lady allowed to claim God told her that she should give a baby to a woman she met one time? That was bizarre. And if you wanted Rosanna to have boy and girl twins like the children that were taken from her, and she is pregnant, just let her be pregnant with twins. I really enjoyed Rhoda. I'm glad she actually had some backbone and told Ken to pound sand when he didn't want kids or God. I liked Rhoda because she was realistic. She didn't have some detailed opposition to the Amish or some grand plan of how she was going to live her life, complete with doctrinal disagreements laid out in the 95 Theses. She was interested in English life and she wanted a boyfriend, so she left. She was selfish and didn't know what she was doing. This is all very realistic and it made for a very interesting character. I thought the allusions to the prodigal son when Rhoda apologized to her father could have been a bit more explicit, but as with all my comments on this series, I do not want to throw away the good in pursuit of the perfect. This was close to perfect. 7 out of 7. Our next book will be Amish Christmas Kinner, a novella collection by Lenora Worth, Rachel J. Good, and Kelly Long. Please check with your local library to see if they have it on the shelves. If not, I am sure they will be happy to get it for you through interlibrary loan. This has been Amish Book Club with Miss Kitty Reed. This is Miss Kitty Reed and Kirsten signing off. See you later on Amish Book Club.
Living in the rhythm that I'm speaking of. You'll be happy in your work if you're in love.